Hello there, everyone. You are welcome. The BRICS nations have just made another bold move to challenge the dominance of the US dollar. But what exactly happened? How does it affect global trade? And most importantly, what does it mean for you? In recent years, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa have been working to reduce their reliance on the US dollar, and now they have taken another major step forward. Just days ago, BRICS finance ministers met to finalize a new payment mechanism that would allow them to trade using their own currencies, sidestepping the dollar altogether. This move is part of a larger strategy to de-dollarize international trade and strengthen their economic sovereignty. But why is this such a big deal? The US dollar has been the world's dominant reserve currency for decades, used in over 88% of global foreign exchange transactions. Many countries rely on it to stabilize their economies and conduct international trade. But BRICS is saying, no more. BRICS nations have several reasons for wanting to move away from the dollar. First, they want to protect themselves from US sanctions. When the US sanctioned Russia over the Ukraine conflict, Russian banks were cut off from the SWIFT financial system. This made international transactions nearly impossible. Now, BRICS countries want to avoid a similar fate. Another major reason is financial stability. The US government prints massive amounts of money, leading to inflation and the devaluation of the dollar. Countries holding large amounts of US reserves risk seeing their wealth diminish over time. So how exactly is BRICS implementing this plan? They're using multiple strategies. Instead of using the dollar, BRICS countries are increasingly settling trade in their own currencies. India, for example, now pays Russia for oil in rupees instead of dollars. China has developed the cross-border interbank payment system, an alternative to SWIFT, which allows countries to settle transactions in yuan. This system is gaining traction among BRICS and other developing nations. A full-fledged common currency like the euro is still a distant goal, but discussions are underway about a new BRICS-based financial system. A BRICS currency may not happen overnight, but the groundwork is being laid for a shift away from the dollar. The recent steps taken by BRICS to move away from the US dollar are already creating ripples in the global financial system. The International Monetary Order, which has been dominated by the US dollar for decades, is facing an unprecedented challenge. If BRICS countries continue on this path, the dominance of the dollar could weaken significantly over the next decade. One of the main reasons this shift is happening is that many countries, especially those in the developing world, are growing increasingly frustrated with their dependence on the US-led financial system. The current global financial structure gives the US significant leverage over other nations, as Washington can impose sanctions, restrict access to the SWIFT payment system, and influence international lending institutions like the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank. Here is your text recopied as it is. When the US imposed economic sanctions on Russia in response to the Ukraine conflict, it froze hundreds of billions of dollars in Russian foreign reserves and cut off Russian banks from the SWIFT network. This move sent a strong message to other countries. If the US disagrees with your policies, it has the power to cripple your economy. As a result, many nations, especially those in BRICS, are now actively seeking alternatives that would protect them from similar actions in the future. China and Russia have been leading this effort by conducting more trade in their own currencies. China has developed the cross-border interbank payment system, an alternative to SWIFT that allows countries to settle transactions in yuan. Russia, meanwhile, has shifted a large portion of its international trade away from the dollar, opting for ruble-based or yuan-based transactions instead. India has also started using its local currency, the rupee, to pay for Russian oil imports, reducing its reliance on dollar transactions. But this movement is not limited to BRICS alone. Many developing nations, particularly those in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, are watching these developments closely. These countries have long struggled with the instability that comes with dollar dependency. When the US Federal Reserve raises interest rates, for example, developing economies suffer from capital outflows, currency depreciation, and rising debt burdens. A financial system that allows them to trade in their own currencies or through an alternative reserve currency would provide them with greater financial stability and autonomy. If BRICS is successful in establishing a strong alternative to the dollar-based financial system, it could encourage more countries to join the movement. Nations such as Argentina, Indonesia, and Saudi Arabia have already expressed interest in working more closely with BRICS. And if they fully integrate into this new financial framework, the shift away from the dollar could accelerate. A world where BRICS and other nations conduct most of their trade in non-dollar currencies would drastically reduce global demand for US dollars. This could lead to a decline in the dollar's value, making imports more expensive for Americans and potentially driving up inflation in the US. It could also weaken the US government's ability to finance its deficits cheaply, as foreign demand for US Treasury bonds would decrease. On the other hand, for BRICS nations and other developing economies, this shift could bring several benefits. They would have more control over their monetary policies, reduced exposure to US financial pressures, and lower costs associated with currency exchange and transaction fees. Furthermore, if BRICS establishes a successful payment system independent of Western control, it could serve as a foundation for a more multipolar financial world, one where economic power is more evenly distributed. While the complete de-dollarization of global trade is still a long-term prospect, the momentum behind this movement is growing. BRICS nations are steadily strengthening their economic ties, exploring new payment mechanisms, and reducing their reliance on Western financial institutions. If they continue on this path, we could see a fundamental shift in the global financial order within the next decade, one that diminishes the dominance of the US dollar and creates a more diverse and balanced economic system. So, how is the US responding to this challenge? Former President Donald Trump has already issued a warning to BRICS Plus, threatening 100% tariffs on their exports if they attempt to create a rival currency. He understands that losing the dollar's dominance would mean higher borrowing costs for the US and a weaker global influence. The US has also been pressuring its allies to maintain the dollar-based financial system. But will these efforts be enough? Or is the de-dollarization train already too far down the tracks to stop? What does all of this mean for everyday people? If the dollar loses its dominance, Americans could see higher inflation as imported goods become more expensive. On the other hand, BRICS nations may gain more economic independence and stability. For investors, this could be a time of opportunity. As the BRICS financial system strengthens, assets in emerging markets may become more attractive. Keeping an eye on these shifts could be crucial for those looking to safeguard their wealth. The BRICS nations are making moves that could reshape the global economy. Whether or not they succeed in fully breaking away from the dollar remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: the world is changing, and the financial power balance is shifting. What do you think? Will BRICS be able to challenge the dollar? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on global finance and geopolitics. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.